It started with a cup of coffee that wasn't mine. She'd ordered a cappuccino, no sugar. But the new girl behind the counter messed it up, handed it to me instead. I didn't notice until I'd already taken a sip. When I turned to apologize, she was standing there, looking amused in that quiet, unreadable way older people look at you. Like they've already forgiven you for things you haven't done yet. "It's okay," she said. "You probably needed it more." Her voice was soft, almost a murmur over the hum of the espresso machine. I laughed awkwardly, wiped a trace of foam from my lip, and offered her the cup back. She shook her head. "Keep it, I'll get another." That was the first time I noticed her hands. The way she held her phone loosely, like she wasn't used to holding anything for too long. She came in again 2 days later. Same time, same order. After a week, I didn't need to ask. I'd see her through the glass before she entered, already pulling the espresso handle, already heating the milk. It wasn't much. A quiet rhythm between shifts. But it gave shape to my mornings. Her name was Lena. My manager told me she worked upstairs. Corporate office, marketing department. "Don't get ideas," he said once, half joking. "She's your boss's boss." I didn't. Not really. Except sometimes when she came in early, before anyone else, and the cafe lights were still warming up, she'd lean on the counter and ask me things. How school was going, what I was studying, if I still wrote poetry. Like people do at your age. I'd make up answers. Sometimes I told the truth. Mostly, I just liked how she listened. Like she was tuning into a station she hadn't heard in years. There was a morning she forgot her thermos, a silver one, scuffed and worn, left sitting by the sugar jars. I held it behind the counter closing half, hoping she'd come back for it. She didn't. When I wiped the counter that night, I found myself polishing the thermos too. Not out of duty, but something else I couldn't name. I took a photo of it before locking up, didn't send it, just stared at the picture on my phone while the bus rocked me home. I told myself it didn't mean anything. The next day, she came in looking tired. Hair tied back. Eyes soft but far away. "I think I left something," she said. "Yeah," I replied, setting the thermos on the counter. "I kept it safe." She smiled at that, really smiled. "You didn't have to." "I know," I said. But I stopped there. She was looking right at me, and whatever I might have said felt too loud for that kind of morning. She took the thermos, nodded once, and went upstairs. After that, things shifted. She still came by, still ordered the same drink, but now, every so often, her hand would brush mine when she took her cup. Or she'd linger an extra second, eyes lowered, smile faint but deliberate. Nothing happened. Nothing obvious anyway. Still, some nights I'd catch myself scrolling through unsent drafts. Messages I'd typed out after closing. "You forgot your thermos again. You seemed tired today. I thought about you." And then I'd delete them all. One Friday evening, after the cafe had emptied and the air smelled like rain, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. We should forget this. I stared at it for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen, the sound of the rain growing louder against the glass. I didn't reply. Not yet. But I knew, forgetting her wasn't gonna be as easy as deleting a message. The text sat in my inbox all weekend. I didn't answer, and she didn't write again. By Monday morning, she was back, same time, same order, same calm. If she was pretending nothing had happened, she was better at it than I was. Her eyes met mine once, then skipped away, like we were both pretending we hadn't crossed a line that didn't even have a name. I handed her the cup. Our fingers brushed. She pulled her hand back quickly, too quickly. "Everything okay?" I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Just a long weekend." Her voice sounded thinner, like she hadn't slept much. Later that day, the coffee machine sputtered and died mid-rush. My manager called maintenance, but until they arrived, everything was chaos, half-made drinks, impatient customers. Lena appeared out of nowhere, sleeves rolled up, offering to help. "I used to work in a cafe during grad school," she said, already tying an apron like it was muscle memory. We laughed when she couldn't remember which button was which. "Wes, I'm out of practice," she said. "Guess I'm not the only one who can burn milk," I replied. It was the most we'd talked in days. When the crowd thinned, she stayed, helping me wipe down tables. For a while neither of us said anything. The shop had that late, afternoon quiet, faint jazz humming, spoons clinking in the sink. Then she said, almost absently, "When I was your age, I thought love was something you earned. Now I think it's something you ruined by holding too tightly." I didn't know what to say. She wasn't looking at me when she said it. Just at the cup she was drying, her reflection warped in its curve. "You think that's true?" I asked. "I think it's easy to want things that don't belong to you anymore." Something in her tone, tired, tender, made my chest tighten. The rain started again outside, tapping the glass softly. I wanted to tell her that wanting wasn't a crime, that I didn't care about rules or looks or years. But the words stayed behind my teeth. Instead, I handed her a cup of tea, the only thing I could do. She smiled faintly, wrapping both hands around it like she needed the warmth. "You remember how I take it. I pay attention," I said. That earned me a glance, brief, almost nothing, but it held more weight than any confession could have carried. We sat there, both of us half turned toward the window, not touching, not speaking. The rain blurred the streetlights into soft gold smudges. When she stood to leave, she hesitated by the counter, then reached out. Her hand brushed a stray coffee ground from my sleeve, just that. A quick, ordinary motion. But her fingers lingered an instant longer than they should have, and I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that afternoon, things didn't quite return to normal. She still came by for coffee, but sometimes she lingered at the counter, fingers resting lightly against the wood. A small, unconscious pause before stepping back into her world upstairs. Other days she'd rush through, eyes fixed anywhere but mine, as if too much stillness might say too much. It wasn't one-sided. I caught myself watching the clock, adjusting my pace so I'd be the one to serve her. My manager noticed once, raised an eyebrow, smirked. "You've got a fan," he said, nodding toward her retreating figure. I laughed it off, maybe too quickly. That night, I stayed late to restock. Lena came down long after the office lights went dark, carrying a stack of folders. Her heels clicked softly on the tile, stopping when she saw me. "You're still here?" "Yeah, inventory." She smiled faintly. Always the dependable one. Something about the way she said it, low, careful, made the room feel smaller. I handed her a cup of warm water. The espresso machine was already off. She took it without question. We stood there in the hum of the vending machine and the faint hiss of rain outside. She set her folders down, sighed. "You know, sometimes I forget how young you are." I froze. "Is that a bad thing?" Her eyes flicked toward mine, then away. "It's just a thing." A silence stretched between us. She rubbed her thumb along the cup's rim, not meeting my gaze. "You remind me of someone," she said after a while. "Someone who used to believe people meant what they said. And now I know better." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I wanted to ask what had happened. Who had changed that belief? But something in her posture warned me off. Shoulders drawn in, like the memory was still sharp, edged. Then the door opened. My manager leaned in, frowning. "You two still here?" Lena straightened instantly, smoothing her hair, professional again in a breath. "Just finishing up," she said lightly. "He's been helping." He nodded, left. But the spell had already broken. She gathered her folders, avoiding my eyes. "You should go home," she said. "Lena, don't." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Don't make this harder." She turned to leave, and for a second, I almost reached out. My hand lifted halfway before I stopped myself. She noticed anyway. Her breath caught the smallest sound. We stood like that, two people suspended in something fragile and unnamed. The hallway light buzzed softly. Rain moved down the glass like static. Then she stepped back. "Good night," she said. "Night," I managed. Her reflection lingered in the window after she'd gone, blurred by the rain, like the outline of a moment that almost became something else. And even then, I couldn't tell if I'd imagined the way her eyes had lingered, or if she really had wanted to stay. It happened on a Tuesday that smelled faintly of overripe rain and burnt espresso. The kind of day that made everything slow down. Sound, thought, courage. She'd come down late, after everyone else had gone, no folders this time, just her, coat draped over one arm, eyes tired in a way makeup couldn't fix. "You're still here," she said, and it sounded less like a question, more like she was relieved. "Inventory again," I said, smiling. Or maybe I just like the quiet. She set her coat on the counter, glanced at the empty tables. Quiet can be dangerous, she murmured. You start hearing things you shouldn't. We both laughed softly, but it didn't last. The air between us felt heavier than before, charged with something neither of us was ready to name. I asked if she wanted to sit. She hesitated, then nodded. We ended up at the small table by the window, the one she usually avoided because of the draft. Outside, the parking lot lights flickered. Inside, her hands were clasped tightly on the table, as if she was trying not to reach for something. I wasn't supposed to text you, she said suddenly. I know. I thought, if I pretended it didn't happen, it'd fade. It didn't. Her lips parted, then closed. A long breath. You shouldn't make it sound like that means something. Doesn't it? I said, softer than I meant to. Her eyes met mine. And for a second, I saw the flicker of what she was trying to bury. It scared her. She looked away. You don't understand what this would cost me. I'm not asking for anything. That's exactly why it's worse. Her voice trembled just slightly, a crack that made me ache. I wanted to tell her she didn't have to be strong here, that she could just be, but I could feel her pulling back, retreating behind invisible walls she'd built long before me. I see how you look at me, she said quietly, and I shouldn't like it. But I do. The words hung there, unsteady. I didn't move, afraid the wrong motion would break the spell. You remind me, she went on, what it felt like to be wanted for no reason. Not because I was someone's boss, or ex-wife, or cautionary tale. Her eyes shimmered, not from tears, just the reflection of the dull cafe light. You make it sound like that's a bad thing, I said. It is, she whispered. Because I can't want this back. A silence followed, long enough to hear the clock tick behind the counter, the hum of the refrigerator, the rain softening outside. I reached out then, not to touch her, not really, just to close the space between our hands. My fingers stopped an inch away. She looked down at them, then at me. For the first time she didn't look guarded, just human. Her lips parted as if to speak, but nothing came out, and in that pause, that fragile, suspended breath, I wondered if she was about to ask me the same question that had been sitting on my tongue for weeks. What are we doing? The next morning, she didn't come, or the day after. At first I told myself it was just work, meetings, deadlines, normal things, but a week passed. Her coffee went unclaimed. Her thermos sat on the counter like a placeholder for something I couldn't name. When she finally appeared, she wasn't alone. A man walked beside her. Tall, well-dressed, easy confidence. They spoke quietly as they crossed the cafe, her smile polite, practiced. The kind you give someone who used to matter. She didn't look at me. Not once. 2 cappuccinos, he said. 1 with sugar. I nodded, heart thudding, hands steady only because years of habit made them so. Lena stood slightly behind him, fingers pressed around her phone. Her nails tapped lightly against the case. A small, nervous rhythm I hadn't seen before. When I handed her the cup, she murmured a thanks. Eyes on the floor, that was it. No shared glance, no quiet joke. Just distance, clean, deliberate. After they left, my manager nudged me. Her ex-husband, he said casually. He used to show up sometimes. Guess they're trying again. I didn't answer. I just kept wiping the same spot on the counter until the rag was dry. The rest of the week blurred. I stopped checking the door at 9:30, stopped counting how many times I refreshed my messages. Saturday, near closing, I found her thermos again. Not forgotten this time, but deliberately left. It was placed neatly beside the register, as if she wanted me to find it. There was a note tucked inside, folded small, thank you for the tea, and for being kind. Some things are easier to leave unspoken, that was all. No signature, no goodbye. I read it twice, maybe 3 times, then slipped it back where I found it. For the first time, I didn't walk her route home after my shift. I didn't glance up at the office windows. I didn't write the message I'd been composing in my head all week. Are you okay? Did I do something? Was it real? I opened my phone anyway, typed something else, shorter, simpler. You don't have to forget this. My thumb hovered over send. Then I locked the screen. The cafe was quiet by then. Just me, the low hum of the refrigerator, and her empty seat by the window. The one that had somehow learned her shape. Outside, The rain started again, slow and steady, smudging the glass like it was trying to erase something. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence, so I waited one more minute, then another, before turning off the lights. Her thermos was still there, catching the glow of the exit sign. I didn't take it home. But I didn't throw it away either. It was late when she came back. The cafe was closed. I was mopping the floor, headphones in, lost somewhere between pretending to move on and not knowing how. The door clicked open. That soft chime I'd stopped listening for. She stood there, rain still clinging to her hair, her coat darkened at the shoulders. She didn't say anything right away, just looked around. Like she was checking if the world had changed without her. "I thought you didn't do visits after hours," I said, my voice sounding steadier than I felt. She smiled, a small, tired curve. "I forgot something. The thermos," she nodded. "Among other things." I leaned the mop against the counter. "You could have waited till morning." "I couldn't," she said softly. "It wouldn't have meant the same." For a while, the only sound was the mop water dripping back into the bucket. She stood near the counter, eyes following the lines of the floor, the espresso machine, everything but me. "Was that your husband?" I asked quietly. She didn't flinch. "Was." The word hung there, thin as steam. "I didn't mean to." "I know," she cut in gently, "but it's good that you asked." I waited. Then she sighed, finally meeting my eyes. "He wanted to try again. Said people our age shouldn't throw things away so easily." "And you?" I said I'd think about it. The air between us felt fragile, like it might break under the weight of the next word. "I don't know what you think this was," she went on. "But it wasn't nothing. I just..." She stopped, exhaled. "I can't live in maybe. Not anymore." She moved closer then, close enough that I could see the small freckle just below her jaw. The one I'd noticed weeks ago but never mentioned. "You make me feel younger," she said. "But not the kind of young that lasts." I swallowed, unsure if I should step closer or keep the distance she was building. "I wasn't trying to make you feel anything," I said quietly. "I just liked who you were when you were here." Her expression softened. A flicker of something between gratitude and ache. "You shouldn't wait for me," she said. "I'm not." I lied. She reached out, her hand brushing my sleeve, lingering just long enough to feel real. "You will," she said, half a whisper, "for a while." I wanted to ask her to stay. To sit down. To drink the last of the cold coffee with me and not say anything. But she was already stepping back. At the door, she turned once, rainlight pooling around her. "I didn't forget you," she said. "I know," she smiled then, small, quiet, like forgiveness. And I don't know why that simple word, "okay," felt heavier than any goodbye. It's strange how the world keeps going after something ends. Months passed. She stopped coming to the cafe altogether. I stopped expecting her to. New faces filled the morning rush, students half awake, office workers glued to their phones. Still, sometimes at 8:47 a.m., I'd glance toward the door out of habit, like the air itself remembered her. The thermos stayed on the shelf behind the counter for a long time. My manager eventually asked about it. "Lost and found," I said, though I wasn't sure what either word meant anymore. I finished school that spring, found a small apartment not far from the river, took a new job at a bookstore that smelled of dust and old lighter. Some nights, when the street outside went quiet, I'd make tea the way she liked it, strong, no sugar, and sit by the window, the steam curling in the same slow, careful way her hands once moved. It wasn't sadness anymore, just a kind of remembering. One rainy afternoon, nearly a year later, I saw her again, not in the cafe, it had changed owners by then, but on the path near the river. She was sitting on a bench, watching the water ripple, a paper cup in her hands. For a moment I almost kept walking, but she turned, sensing me before I spoke. That same quiet recognition. The years between us had softened, not widened. "You look well," I said. "So do you." Her hair was shorter now. There were new lines around her eyes, but she seemed lighter somehow. Unburdened. We talked about small things, books, weather, work. We tied a conversation that hides everything it's really about. Then she said, "I passed the cafe last week. It's strange seeing it without you there." "It's strange seeing any morning without you," I said before I could stop myself. She smiled. That same faint, unreadable smile from the first day. You still say things like that. Only when they're true. A pause. Then she offered me the cup she was holding.
Tea,
She said. No sugar. It was warm against my palms the same way it had been in that quiet cafe years ago. For a long while, we just sat, listening to the rain, to the river, to everything we hadn't said and didn't need to. She glanced at me once, softly. You kept the thermos, didn't you? I laughed under my breath. Yeah. I couldn't throw it away. Her smile deepened, small but real. Some things aren't meant to be forgotten, just carried differently. The rain started to ease. She stood, brushed her coat sleeve. Take care, okay, you too, not was it, no promise, no undoing. Just two people who once shared something impossible, and somehow made peace with the possible. As she walked away, I took another sip of the tea. It was still hot, still hers, and for the first time I didn't feel paused, just still.